Hey guys, welcome back to Magic TV. My name's Craig. It is 12 o'clock on a Sunday. It's time for a Q&A. Now, this is where I take all the questions that you've asked over the course of the week and I try to answer them to the best of my ability. A couple of things that you need to be aware of. First of all, I normally film these in the middle of the week. So if you want to guarantee to get your question answered, please try and get the question to me as soon as possible. If I miss your question, I'm very sorry. I will get to it the following week. Also, please don't forget that you're getting my raw, unfiltered opinions on these questions. I don't really read them through beforehand. So if I see a question that's going to require a longer response, then it'll probably get put into a longer video. Also, thank you to everybody that jumped into the Alakazam live launch of Monsters and picked one up. I've been told by Pete that it was incredibly successful, so thank you very much. I'm super proud of that trick, and I'll be doing like a mat test on it or something very, very soon. But outside of that, thank you again for everybody that has said that they're glad to see the Matchmentary back. I'm really excited about this season of the Matchmentary. Matt's got a lot of work to do to get ready for the Bear Pit, but I think it's going to be fun watching him get to that position. Anyway, without further ado, I'm going to get into it, and we're going to start answering questions. So let's go for it. Okay, so the first question is from Andy Putt, who says, "Hi Craig, you showed us that you spent a lot of money on Magic in a year. Yes, let's say you used 30% of the tricks that you've bought in your axe. That means 70% of the Magic's going in the bin. An idea is if you sell the Magic you don't use in your web shop for 50% of the price under a tab called Open Box, just like Penguin do. Because one man's trash is another man's treasure. You get back a bunch of money, blah, 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 win-win. What do you think?" Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I don't think I could actually be bothered to do that, just in terms of I'd have to package it off and send it off. And, one of the reasons that I work with production companies is because I don't self-release my own tricks, is I don't want to be in a situation where I'm having to send hundreds of parcels out. I mean, Magic TV has got a shop and I sell my own stuff, but, and people who buy it, that's amazing, and we ship it out as soon as possible. But I'm not set up yet to be like this big distribution center sending out loads of parcels every single day. And I see so many creators and they get a bad reputation because people buy stuff off them and they tend to not end up delivering stuff. I don't want to be that guy. So yeah, I mean, maybe I'd get around to doing something like that in the future, but I don't know. I've got a lot of shelves and a lot of stuff on shelves, so maybe I'll do something like that at some point, but not anytime soon. Okay, so the next question is from Matthew Wennell, who says, "Hi Craig, where would you recommend learning the cups and balls, and also which cups and ball set should I get? Thank you." I mean, there's a lot of different places that you can learn the cups and balls. If you've never done anything with cups and balls before, I would suggest that one of the first things that you do is you have a look at the Di Vernon routine. A lot of the routines that you see these days are sort of adaptations from Di Vernon's original routines. Definitely have a look at the Vernon Cups and Balls. There's a lot of sequences in there that people still use today. My favourite Cups and Balls routine that uses 3 cups is the Michael and Mar Cups and Balls, and he actually brought out a DVD through L&L many years ago, which is now available as a download, I believe, where he broke down his routine, his cups and balls routine. And if you've seen Ryland do the cups and balls, his routine is based in part on the Michael Amar routine, so that's something to look into. Also, study some of the 2 cup and ball routines. A couple that you really want to have a look at is Tommy Wonder. He took a very different approach to the cups and balls, and his are very much based on kind of a misdirection style sequence as opposed to the original sort of Vernon style routine. And there's a lot of moments where things are vanishing and appearing under the cups that were there from the very beginning. A little bit like card under drink or card under box or that sort of thing. Definitely worthwhile looking at Tommy Wonder's routine. It's brilliant. Also, if you're going to look at a 2 cup routine, have a good look at Dave Williamson's 2 cup routine as well. He's got some very nice, unique sequences in that 2 cup routine that's definitely worth studying. In terms, I'll give you one more as well, the amazing Coffee Cups and Beans project by Vulpine Creations and Adam Wilbur is fantastic. Now, they might not be the sort of cups that you want to use because they're designed to look like coffee cups, but the teaching on there is brilliant. He got a bunch of different magicians to teach their version of the cups and balls. So there's a lot of instruction on there. It's definitely worth looking at just for the instructions on how to do the routines. In terms of which cups to get, it depends on how much you want to spend. If you want a nice cheap starter set, then, you know, TCC do some good cups that are fairly inexpensive. If you want to go more expensive, you can use the cups that Ryland uses. He uses the Legends cups, which were released by Murphy's Magic Direct. They're very nice cups. If you want to spend an absolute fortune on cups, have a look at Michael Kaminskas. He makes some of the most beautiful cups and balls that you've ever seen. Tommy Wonder has his own 2 cup and ball set. So if you like Tommy Wonder's routine, you might want to look at Tommy Wonder's cups and balls. We did review those a little while ago. Dave Forrest, who is now back in the Magic community, has the Maestro. Is it Maestro? The cups that are designed to look like a dice cup. They're great. You know, you can get those directly from him now. And obviously the amazing coffee cups and beans cups that I talked about earlier on from Volpine Creations, all of those are good. So any of those sources will kind of lead you in the right direction. Okay, so the next question is from Josh483, who says, quick question for you, Craig. I've been using the double undercut as my go-to card control ever since I started Magic. I've heard a lot of people saying to avoid using it as it's unnatural and sloppy, but it seems to work just fine for me. Nevertheless, could you suggest an alternative card control so I can expand my repertoire? Absolutely. I mean, there's millions of card controls that you use in different situations, depending on what you're looking for. So the double, there's a match there, weird. So the double undercut is great, but if you want to vary up the double undercut, but you still want to kind of do it, a way of doing the double undercut, so you kind of doing that's the double undercut, right? So instead of doing the double undercut, you can do a table double undercut, which kind of looks like that. It's quite a nice one. And how that works is it's exactly the same thing, but you're cutting from the top. So you've got the break in the middle, you cut off half of the cards above the break, put them on the table, cut the rest of the cards above the break and put them to the right. And then these cards, where the cards on top go onto the left-hand packet and these cards go onto the right-hand packet. And that's a table double undercut. Basically does the same thing as double undercut, but without using a table. Now you could use a running cut. That's quite a nice cut to use. So the running cut is where you have the card in the middle. You've got a break above it. And you literally just do running cuts to the break and then just cut everything on top. So, you know, I'm cutting a small packet of cards, and this is the break, and I just drop everything on top, and that's the card on top. Now, if you're doing walk around, you can do that into someone's hand, have them hold their hand out and tell them that you're going to give them a few cuts. That works just as fine. Another way of doing it is, let's say they've still picked the Ace of Hearts, start doing an overhand shuffle and have them say stop. When they say stop, have them put the card on top there. Do an in-jog, so run one card, in-jogging one, and then shuffle off, okay? And then pick up on the in-jog and shuffle off to the in-jog, which is going to bring that Ace of Hearts to the top. So let's say they've just put their card back there. That looks quite nice because it looks like you've just shuffled the card into the deck and you've given it a few more shuffles and then the ace is on top. If you like the Hindu shuffle, you can shuffle a bunch of cards off, have them say stop, have them put that card back there, and then you can apparently shuffle more cards on top, but the aces come to the top. And this is a classic Hindu shuffle control, but basically all that's happening here is as you go to shuffle the next packet on top of the card that they've put back, you're going to lift up on about 5 or 6 cards, and you've got a break there, as you can probably see, between those 5 or 6 cards and the rest of the packet. So you shuffle off until you get to that packet that you lifted up, you drop that on top, there's the Ace of Hearts on top. So all of those look like the cards are being shuffled. All of those work really well. You know, let me think. It depends on where you want the card returned to. Do you want it controlled to the bottom? Do you want it controlled to the top? Gary Jones's top con control is absolutely brilliant. if you're wanting to come to the top. So the top control is you have the card put back. It's lost into the middle, and you say, actually, you know what, I'm just going to put it a little bit further down, just like that, so it really is lost. And in that action, it's come to the top. So that's Gary Jones' top con control. You can learn that in most material from Gary Jones, or the book that Chris Congreve put out with Gary and Chris. That works really well. But I mean, very, very briefly, it starts a bit like a convincing control, but you don't do the cull. So that when you get to this point here, it looks like it's going into the middle, but obviously really it's on top. Okay, and talking about that, you can have the card picked this way and have that card looked at, and you can do a side steal. You know, that's a perfectly good control. You know, as you do an all-round square up, just replace that card on top. So just have the card looked at, side steal it out to the middle of the deck as you square up, so it's now in full palm. And then as you do an all-round square up, load it on top. I mean, that's a great way of doing a control. You can do a pass. A pass is great as well. You know, have the 6 put in the middle, and you know, that's a midnight shift, which is a really nice, fairly easy version of the pass. Obviously, with it face down, you don't see anything. It looks like it's just lost into the middle of the deck, and you know, you just square up, and in that action, the cards come to the top. Any of these would work, but again, controls are situational. So, for example, a Kelly bottom replacement or an Ovette master move is fantastic, but only if you want the card to go to the bottom. You know, if you don't want it to go to the bottom, it's no good. Likewise, a convincing control is a great control to do, but only if you're wanting the card to go to the bottom. The Slipstream control by Troy Hooser is great and looks really good, but again, only if you want the card returned to either second from top, third from top, fourth from top, something like that. I was trying to think of any others that are relatively easy that you could learn. I mean, all of those are not difficult at all, to be perfectly honest. All of those will work. Don't forget, you could, you know, just have a double lift. You could be in a situation where, you know, if you don't need to be in a situation where you haven't seen the card, you could show the card. Oh, there you go. I'm still working on my strike double. Pop the card down in the middle, leave it in there, and have it come to the top. That works fine. But obviously, you need to see the card. There's ways of getting around that. Yeah, I mean, any of those controls would work. I mean, if you want the easiest one, I'd say the Hindu Shuffle one is really easy because it doesn't take long to learn a Hindu Shuffle. And that control is actually really, really deceptive, having that card come to the top of the pack. There's about 100 controls on the Netrix, so if you want to see more, just sign up to the Netrix and go into card controls, and there's a bunch of them on there. But you only need like a few, really, personally, to be honest. You don't need a million of them. It's better to have 100 revelations and 3 or 4 controls than 100 controls and 2 or 3 revelations. But hopefully something there will work for you. Okay, so the next question is from Reese Whitehead, who said, "Hey Craig, it was great seeing you and Ryland in Blackpool on Saturday." Thank you, man. It was really good to see you as well. I just wanted to say your audience management with getting everyone involved of all ages was amazing to watch when you did walk around pre-show. Thank you. Ryland did a brilliant job throughout the show, even through minor technical errors. Yeah, that yours was the show where the mic just ended up cutting out, didn't it? And Ryland just carried on while Mark ran down to the co-op to get more batteries for the mic. Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, that wasn't great, but luckily it didn't faze him. That's the most amazing thing. He just projected his voice and carried on, and I suppose that's down to experience. My question this week is that do you ever think magic books will be available in mainstream bookstores such as Waterstones? I mean, there are some books available. There are some magic books available in Waterstones, but I don't know if magic books, lots of them, will ever be available in mainstream magic shops. I don't know, in mainstream bookstores. I doubt it, because bookstores want to make money, right? They want to make a profit, and magic's very niche. Very, very niche. And I don't know how many people would go into a bookstore to look for a magic book beyond like the beginner books that you find there. Now, if you're interested in magic, you might go into a bookstore and buy a magic book, maybe, possibly. But you know, if you're kind of interested in magic and you don't know anything about it and you're wanting to look for a book as a beginner, But if you're into magic, if you're a magician, in all likelihood, if a book comes out, you're going to get it from Penguin or Vanishing Ink or your favorite magic dealer. You're not going to wait until next time you're in town. So I think it's going to be very niche, and I don't know if bookstores would actually make any money from stocking magic books. And ultimately, at the end of the day, those bookstores are out to make a profit. They're a business. That's their job. So I don't think that would ever happen, just purely from a financial reasons. And also, it's easier for any magician, anybody who's interested in that sort of book would be able to buy it from an online magic dealer. And I think that very few people would actually go into a shop to buy it. And anybody who would be going into a bookstore to buy a magic book, it would probably be more of a beginner book, because they don't probably at that point know anything about magic or magic dealers or people like that. So no, I don't think it would happen, but I've been wrong before many times, so maybe it will. Okay, so the next question is Matt Davis, 8096, who says, "Hi Craig, I recently got Cube 52 and I absolutely love it. I've been getting into magic over the last year or so, and I've made a lot of purchases that I'm never going to use. I know you've talked about this, but I've become overwhelmed with how much stuff I have to learn, and my progress is suffering." Yeah, it's a common problem for a lot of people, me included sometimes. My question is, how do you feel as a creator when you see products being resold on Facebook selling sites? I've sold some items and I'm conflicted between ripping off the creator and recovering some of my costs. It just happens. You can't please everybody. I've bought tricks that I don't really post stuff on Facebook selling sites. I never have. But I've bought tricks that, from magicians I seriously love and respect, and I've bought a trick off them, and it's just not been my style. I think that when tricks appear on Facebook selling sites, there's a certain percentage of the magic population that use that as evidence that the trick was never any good. Oh, look at how many people are already selling it on. And I don't think that's the case. I just think not everybody can like everything. And that's a good thing, because if everybody liked everything, they'd all be going out doing exactly the same tricks. And I think that sometimes you can buy something and you can watch it and you can think, well, you know what, that's great, but there's no way that's going to fit into my act. And if that's the case, you're going to want to recoup your money on it. And that's fine. Once you've bought it, you're within your right to sell it if you want to. That's why these Facebook selling sites exist, right? And there's a debate online. This debate has been going on forever, that if you sell something, like you sell a book online, are you allowed to ever do the material out that book that you learned? That's a debate for another day. But in terms of how do I feel as a creator, I don't have a problem with it, because, I'd rather it go to somebody who would use it. Because for me, one of the biggest things as a creator, one of the things that really spurs me on, is watching videos or performances, or listening to people talking about how they've performed to a group or a gig and they use one of my tricks or routines or creations. That just fills me with glee, genuinely, because the thought of something I've sat here and created that's been performed in another country to completely different people that I'm never going to meet, and they're giving you great reactions, and that just is an amazing feeling, and it's one of the reasons why I create. So no, I don't have a problem with it. I think it's just natural, and also people get hyped up. That can happen. In the magic industry, magicians. A lot of magicians, myself included, love magic, and we get hyped up when the new trick comes out, right? It's like, oh my gosh, that's amazing, I need that in my act. And then when you get it, you realize it's not going to be appropriate for your act for whatever reason it may be. And so, that's one reason why things get sold sometimes as well. I think that people buy into the hype, which is fine, but that's probably why they're selling it on. So no, I don't feel conflicted. If you've bought something and it's not for you, sell it on and then buy something else. The creator's not going to be upset. I'm not going to be upset if I see a Cube 52 for sale on a selling site. I'm just not going to be upset at all. It just means that person didn't particularly, the particular product in question didn't float their boat. It didn't fit to them. That's fine. It'll fit for somebody else. Okay, so the next question is from Jonah Berg. Who's asked a lot of questions on this channel, and is asking another question right now, which he says, what are your thoughts on the Lloyd Barnes versus Unbiased Magic Reviews controversy? And I've kept out of this, to be perfectly honest, other than referencing it on the podcast. I've kept out of it, and I'm putting a video up tonight at 9 o'clock because I've had so many people ask me to review decks and give my thoughts on Lloyd versus Unbiased Magic Reviews that I'm putting a video up tonight, the 9 o'clock video tonight, which is the one that's the slot that's kind of reserved for the review show special. I'm doing a kind of not a review my thoughts on the whole situation. I've done a map test on decks. I've been taking decks out in the field, and I've been using it ever since I got it, and I think it's an absolutely brilliant prop. You know, but I'm biased. I'm openly biased. Lloyd is one of my best friends, and I'm not a big fan of Unbiased Magic Reviews. I've just never been a big fan of David's for whatever reason. There's a few different reasons, but you know, whatever. I'm giving my thoughts on it tonight at 9 o'clock, and yeah, and hopefully that'll be the last of it, because I've had so many people ask me about the situation. I was going to leave it. I was going to do a map test, and that's it. But so many people have asked me to talk about it that I will. I filmed it when I wasn't very well. I've been ill this week, very ill, in bed most of the week. So I filmed it when I was very ill. So I don't know. It might be a little bit rambly, but it's what I think. So you want to know my opinions? Tune in at 9 o'clock tonight. Okay, so the next question is from Crazy Cards 175. Who says, hi Craig, awesome video. Hope Ryland had a wonderful show at the House of Secrets. He's an extremely talented magician. Speaking of Ryland, on his YouTube channel recently, he posted a video of him performing a monster-related trick on Thea. And you said on the podcast with Lloyd that you'll be releasing a trick called Monsters with Alakazam. So I was wondering if that was the trick Ryland's performing in the video. Yes, it was. He was doing one of the routines on there. Also, can you give me any information about when the live launch for that trick would be? Either way, I'm super stoked to add it to my Halloween repertoire. Keep up the good work, Craig. Yeah, the live launch took place on Thursday, Thursday, something like that, and it was really successful. Everybody has had so many nice things to say about Monsters, which is great. It is not just a one-trick pony. There's 15 routines, 3 hours of tutorial. I'm probably going to do a map test. At some point, I'll do a review show as well. But I was very open on the tutorial. If you go back and look at the live launch, I was very open about what you get with Monsters, and I kind of broke down exactly what you get in the package. There's 15 routines that you can do, and there's a bunch of principles built into it. And it's not just a Halloween trick, because the whole trick is based around sort of iconic characters and iconic monsters from horror films through cinematic history. So having a hook like, hey, do you like scary movies? I love scary movies. Let me show you something with these cards. These have all got famous monsters from cinematic history. Let me show you. It's an interesting hook that draws people in straight away. It's perfect for Halloween, but it's one of those tricks that can be done all year round. So it's available at Alakazam. There's a trailer on there. I'll probably do some videos on it in the next week or so. You can go back and look at the live launch if you look at Alakazam socials on Facebook. But yeah, it's great. I love it. So yeah, hopefully that helps. Okay, so the next question is from Divishan Magician, who says, not a question, but I just want to say I look forward to meeting you and Ryland at the YMC Final, as I'm also going to be competing in it. Oh, amazing, man. Good luck. I think Ryland did tell me, actually. It's the close-up competition, right? In which case, congratulations. That's amazing. And I wish you all the best. Okay, so Chris Ash, my friend Chris Ash, has said, hi, Craig. Okay, so first question. Are we still going to be getting a Magic Podcast Magic Convention in 2024? Yes, I believe that we are. Lloyd and I just need to get together. I think we'll probably make it a combined Magic Podcast stroke Black Arts podcast. I think that would be great. Getting Jake involved is a very smart cookie. But yeah, I'd love to see that happen. I really would. And two, do you have any advice on how to recover from magic overload, especially when reading effects is just words with no comprehension of what's being described? Especially when reading effects is just words with no comprehension of what's being described. I don't know what that means. I'm sorry. Especially when reading effects is just words with no comprehension of what's being described. I'm really sorry, I'm not 100% sure what you mean there, Chris. But in terms of magic overload, take a break. You know, I'm the first person to get overloaded with magic sometimes because magic is my life. When I walk into the office, I'm talking to customers all day about booking magic shows and telling them why magic's great. I'm constantly learning tricks for the review show. I'm constantly rehearsing with Ryland because he's always got something coming up that he's rehearsing for. At the moment, it's the Young Magicians Club close-up and stage competition, but then there'll be something else. There's always something else. And then I'm obviously going out and performing myself. I'm creating my own magic. I'm filming my own magic. Like, if anybody could get overloaded with magic, it's me. And sometimes you just take a step back. Like, I've not been very well this week, and I've spent most of the week in bed, and I've done less than I normally would. And I've been meaning for like the last few months to watch the final season or the latest season of Stranger Things. I've just binged it. You know, I've just binge watched it in like probably 2 days. I'm still not 100%. So, yeah, in terms of overload, take a step back. You know, do something else that you enjoy. For me, I love wrestling. I love, you know, it's Fastlane this Saturday. I'm very excited about that. I love genre TV. I love anything geeky, sci-fi, anything like that. I love movies. I love hanging out with my kids, playing with my kids, that sort of stuff. You just take a break from magic sometimes. That's the easiest way to deal with overload. Take a step back and then you'll come into it with a renewed focus and love. Okay, so the next question is from David Blaine. Question about how you did the effect with Imagine by Peter and Harry and your quantum. Not sure how you did the force. That routine is awesome. Could you explain? Yeah, I've done that routine many times since I came up with it. So the whole idea is you start off with Imagine. So you start off with this deck of cards that's all from different packs, and you do the original routine, right? So you do the original what am I talking about? The original quantum, the original Imagine routine. So you get different people to pick cards and you get them to look at the cards and tell them what the card is that they've picked and so on and so forth. But then what you do is, obviously that's not changing the order of the deck. So every time you dribble and you have them look at a card and you tell them what the card is, because you're getting the peek over here, it's not changing the order of the deck. So the top card will stay the same, right? Or the top and the bottom card of the deck is going to stay the same. So what I do is, after I've done like 3 or 4 people picking cards, I then say, well, we're going to get one more person to pick a card, but we're going to do something different. And I'm going to cut the deck somewhere in the middle. So I cut to a printed card and I'm going to hold a break. And then I'm going to force the bottom card of the packet, which was the original. I'm going to force the card that's in the middle with the break, which was the original bottom card of the packet. So I force that card, and I know that card's going to be forced, so that's the card that's set up in my quantum deck. So then when I force the card, then I do the blank thing and I turn the cards blank. And then obviously you do the deck switch, and then when you've done the deck switch, you say, well, now all the cards are blank, but you were thinking of a card, weren't you? Don't tell me the card. But there's 52 cards in the deck, give me a position, 26, boom. And then you just deal down to that position, and there's one printed card in the deck, and the one printed card in the deck is the card that they looked at. So, and then obviously the deck's examinable, which it wasn't when you were using the Imagine deck. So the two of them work together really well. Hopefully that makes sense, and it's clear, but if not, ask me down below and I'll elaborate on it a bit more. Okay, so the next question is Colin Jones, who says, I'll second the comment on Cube 52, and who would buy it? I have it, I love it, and you're an honest magician and a very likeable person. Some would disagree with you. Please keep the magic and your enthusiasm going. Love and respect, and Cube algorithms, crazy Colin. Thank you, Colin. Look, it's messages like that that really make it worthwhile. It can sometimes be a little bit much if you get a lot of negative comments, which can happen when you're on YouTube. So reading comments like that really make it worthwhile, so thank you. Okay, so the next question is from Corey Hyman. Hyman, I think. Could you point me towards magic that has an artistic bent? Things in that vein. Tobias Dostal, Teller's solo stuff. I'd love to hear your thoughts on the best stuff with that kind of artistic tone. Man, I'll be honest, I don't really do that type of magic. it's not something that kind of hits my radar that much. I love watching it, but I don't very often. Well, never. I never perform. My style as a performer is not to perform that style of magic. And it's very subjective as well, isn't it? Like art and what's artistic is very subjective. Like to one person, it might be one thing. To one person, it might be something else. Like I've always loved the original card artistry by Justin Flom before he went kind of weird. I've always loved card artistry, and I've always thought that is just a beautiful routine. I don't know if you would consider that to be the same. Anything by Francis Minotti. Paper Crane bought out a DVD many years ago, and I just thought it was trying to see if I can find it. Probably not, no. Paper Crane bought out a Francis Minotti DVD many, many years ago, and it's probably still available somewhere because Paper Crane was bought by Penguin. So it's probably still available somewhere. But I thought that the routines on that were so artistic. There was just so many moments, and I'd never seen anything like that before up until that point. Right from the very beginning routine where he's shuffling the deck and his words are becoming all jumbled up as he shuffles the deck, and as the deck goes back into order, his words go back into order. If you want to know what I think is the most beautiful magic routine, from a spectator's point of view, something I can watch over and over again, it's the Phone Act by Soma. If you go onto YouTube and you type in Phone Act Soma, you're going to see what I'm talking about. I love that act. I think that is the best magic act ever. I just think it's genius. But in terms of, I'll have a think about it and I'll get back to you, because it's not the sort of magic that I do. But let me have it. It would be something that I'd have to really seriously think about. So let me have a think about it and I'll get back to you. Maybe I'll even do a video on, the most artistic routines of all time. Okay, so the next question is from Stephen Devereaux, who would have said, hi Craig, thanks for your hard work. What year did you work at Butlins? I worked there from 95 and 96, Minehead. Thanks from South Africa. I was in Skegness, and it would have been '93, '94, maybe 95 would have been. Around about that time. It's foggy, I'm old. But around about 93, 94, 95 in Skegness. But, you can attest that, working in a holiday park is the most fun you'll ever have. You get paid nothing, absolutely nothing. It's the hardest work you'll ever do, but my God, is it fun. Okay, so the next question is from Adrian Suter. And Adrian says, a while ago you mentioned a magician who performed several card tricks in a row and used different trick decks for every trick. What would be a better way to perform with several decks? For instance, an invisible deck, a mem deck, and a normal deck with the shuffleboard setup. Deck switches, decks with fancy designs and a special hook, or a background story. I've always, let's just assume for a second, so you're going shuffleboard setup, normal deck with a shuffleboard setup. Okay, mem deck, right. So I've always, I'm going to assume that you're talking about the invisible deck as a finale, as a standard invisible deck trick, which is name a card. Look, it's the only one reversed in the deck. When I've ever done the invisible deck and there's been multiple decks involved, I've had that, unless I'm doing a different style of routine, I've had that set up as a prediction. So I'll write prediction on a deck of cards and I'll say, hey, the first thing that I want to do is I want to give you this deck of cards. Can you do me a favor? That's the prediction. That's going to be my big finale. Can you hold on to that for me? We're going to get back to that a little bit later on. Wonderful. Thank you very much. And my goal is to have them forget about that deck so that I do everything with the other deck. And then boom, at the end, I can bring everything full circle and have them name a card in some way and have them say, well, remember the prediction? I gave it you at the beginning, and then they remember that I gave this deck out, and that's the deck that I gave at the very, very beginning, and then we bring that back out for the big finale. So that's how I'd handle the invisible deck if you're dealing with one deck of cards. In terms of the normal deck and the mem deck with the shuffleboard setup, I would be inclined to treat that as a gag. And I've done that a couple of times in the past. And you saw me doing it on the mat test. This is something that I've done in parlor shows quite a lot, which is a way of kind of switching decks in a gag. So I would start off by doing shuffleboard, and doing the whole shuffleboard routine. And at the end of shuffleboard, handing the deck out and saying, give these cards a shuffle. And let's say they're blue backed. So you give the cards out and you say, shuffle the cards, make sure they're all mixed up. Can you do that for me? Fantastic. Amazing. And then you take the cards back and you say, right, this deck of cards has been really well shuffled, right? There's no way I can know the order, which is precisely why I'm going to use this deck of cards. And you bring out the other deck, which in this case is the mem deck, and you kind of go into the routine with the other deck, which has got a blatantly different pack design. And it's funny and it's designed as a gag. And then you go into a bunch of full shuffles, but people will remember that they've shuffled the cards. And it's a very funny moment doing that thing where you pull out the other deck. And it looks like it's just a gag, but it's a great way to switch a deck in very, very easily, especially if you then go back to the other deck. So if you can construct a mem deck routine where you're using two different decks, so you kind of start off by having them shuffle the blue deck, and you go, you've got the gag, and you go, exactly why I'm going to be using this one. Then you do a couple of mem deck routines. Then you do a mem deck routine that uses a regular deck and a mem deck. And you want to go check out my Penguin Live if you want to see my favourite routine that uses a mem deck and a regular deck. And then you can kind of put everything away and finish off with the prediction at the end. The other way is obviously to use a deck switch. And if you want to use a deck switch, that's absolutely fine. My favourite way of doing a deck switch is to go into the pocket for something. So, after you've done something and you're about to switch the deck, you go into the pocket and you bring something out, which is going to allow you to switch decks. Or, as you've got a regular deck, do Bound by Joel Dickinson, which is a routine that you can get as a download from Penguin Magic. It's an amazing download, and it's a trick where you're kind of doing this impossible thing with your pocket and with the deck of cards, but it naturally switches the deck during the course of the routine. So you can go do shuffleboard, you're then left in essence with a regular deck of cards, do Bound by Joel Dickinson, Joel Dickinson, sorry, and then you can go into, that will automatically switch the mem deck in for you. So if you want them to appear that there's only one deck, you could go that way. Either way, with the invisible deck, I'd use it to top and tail the act. Okay, so the next question is from Adrian Suter, 3354. Another one from Adrian, who says, hi Craig, what makes, in your opinion, the difference between a good magician and an excellent magician? I mean, it's subjective, Adrian, is the thing there. It's very much subjective. And what I mean by that is different people like different magicians for different reasons. Like, I have always gravitated towards comedy magicians. My favourite type of performer are people like Greg Wilson, Scott Alexander, Mark Bennett, Alan Hudson. Those are the sort of people that I like. I love that sort of comedy magic. Ryland, he loves more stage manipulators. So he will sit there for hours watching Hugh Ho Jin and Shin Lim and Russ Stevens in his prime, and Johnny Hart and Sean McCree and Jeff McBride and people like that. So the problem is, it's subjective. What's the difference between a good magician, a great magician, and what was it? Hang on, I've forgotten what you said. The difference between a good magician and an excellent magician. I don't know. I mean, it's really not for magicians to decide, really, is it? I suppose it is when you come and you think about competitions, but it's lay people really that will make the decision. And you know what? I've seen so many. I've been to lots of events and watched lots of magicians perform for lay people, and I've seen performers perform that the magic community hold up here, the highest level. And they've gone out and done okay. But then I've seen other people that are relatively new into magic. They have no notoriety in the community, and they've literally brought the house down. It very much depends, it depends on every audience. Personally, and I've talked about this before, I personally think the difference between a good magician and an excellent magician is flight time and experience. The more experience you have, the better you are. You can always tell when a routine is polished. I can always tell when a creator brings out a trick and they've hardly ever done it, versus somebody who's brought out a trick and it's been worked in over years. It's just obvious to tell the difference, right? And I think that's the biggest thing. Now, you don't want to rehearse, and have experience to the point that you've become jaded. I've seen magicians that go out there and they just do the same crap every single week and it never changes and it's always the same thing and they're just going through the motions and coasting. I've seen people do that where they proudly proclaim that they use the same 5 tricks in their closer packs and they've never needed to update it and they're never going to update it and they only ever do the same 5 tricks. And yeah, they may do those 5 tricks well, but you can just tell that they're just going through the motions and they just don't want to be there. And they're there for one reason and one reason only, and that's to pick up the money. I think that I like it best when there's magicians out there that are pushing themselves. They're always exploring new routines or more ideas or more tricks. Excuse me, I'm still not 100%. Magicians that are pushing themselves. But at the same time, they're very, very polished with what they do. They're my favourite types. And especially with me personally, I love watching comedy magic. So it's a bit subjective, but that's what I'd say. So there you go, guys. That's another Q&A in the bag. Thank you once again for asking all the questions this week. I always tell you, this channel would not exist if it wasn't for you guys asking questions and interacting with the channel. So for that, I thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I really do. Don't forget, there's a whole bunch of stuff coming up today at 9 o'clock tonight. We've got a review show special on decks. There's another Cube 52 performance tonight at 6 o'clock. And then we're back with a 5x5 on Monday. So please check out all the content. If you haven't checked out the trailer for Monsters, please do so. I'd really appreciate you having a look at that. It's my latest trick. And if you haven't joined the Netrix, do that. That's www.thenetrix.com. And I'll see you again soon. Thank you so much for watching. My name's Craig from Magic TV.